Hi, Roy here on my channel, Roy Reads Anything. Anything, including lots of things, but none of those seem to have been finished yet, so this is a sort of recent reads that are ongoing. So a kind of progress check-in, I guess. So one of those things is Dune. Dune, famous science fiction book that I've never read before. Never seen the movies either, so I'm kind of a total Dune newbie. And this book, particularly in this sort of edition, has been around, I can't remember not having seen this book on the science fiction shelves since I got interested in it. I gather it came out in the mid-60s as a book. And hugely enjoying it. It's hard to know what to say about a book that's so famous. It's a lot of world building and a lot of lore, and you're kind of thrown into that, and you have to assimilate quite a lot in the early chapters. But I'd say it's worth it, because once you're sort of au fait with how all of that works, then the story is pretty page-turning adventure type stuff. So I'm enjoying this, like millions before me, and thinking what to sort of, would I make a video about it? It seems like, reviewing Dune seems a bit redundant, but one thing about it is it was known back in the 70s as being a sort of hippie Bible. So massive enthusiasm in the counterculture for Dune. You could see it in somebody's pad with joss sticks smoking and black light posters on the wall and that sort of thing. And the same thing has been said about Lord of the Rings, and the same thing's been said about Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land. So I might make a video about hippie Bibles with some thoughts on why there was a moment when the counterculture were taking these kind of books on board. So that's something. I will actually need to read Stranger in a Strange Land before I can do that, because I haven't even looked at that for many decades.
Call yourself a science fiction reader?
Well, I know, it's one of those, isn't it? But it's sort of it's the sort of book where you think you know it and therefore don't need to read it, I suppose. Plus, do I need persuading that free love is a good idea at my age in Ormskirk? Anyway, moving smoothly on to Shakespeare. So I've been reading a whole bunch of Shakespeare stuff this month, which has been great, and I've made videos about Richard III and Romeo and Juliet and done a tag as well. And we're in the process of looking at Antony and Cleopatra. So I've read the text, which I enjoyed, and we will be watching a TV version as well. And then I'll make an Antony and Cleopatra video for Shakespeare, which is a great event. Really enjoying participating in that. Particularly, I think, because I didn't think much about it. I just sort of plunged in. I didn't sort of plan ahead or anything. Shakespeare has been good, and Antony and Cleopatra, well, hey. In fact, that will have a sort of afterlife, because I got interested in Cleopatra herself as a sort of solo figure. So I'm working on something about Cleopatra in various incarnations, which is why I read this book this week, Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong, because it was described as being a epic fantasy debut inspired by Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, as well as being a fiery collision of power plays, spilled blood and romance amidst a set of deadly games. And I actually DNF'd the book about halfway through.
Lightweight.
It's a sort of... There's a sort of Hunger Games thing going on in a dystopian type city. There's some interesting things about it, but I just wasn't persuaded by the characters or particularly gripped by the story. But, this isn't the kind of thing I'm I'm not a big... Well, it isn't exactly YA, although to me, apart from the blood and swearing, it did have a very YA type feel. But I don't think I've really read enough of this sort of thing. I haven't even read like the actual Hunger Games or any of those other sort of ones. Jenny, I think, has read all of them.
I have. I got them on a 99p deal.
99p?
All of them in one go.
For all of the Hunger Games?
So, yeah.
Good Lord.
I know.
But then you are the 99p queen
I am the 99
of Kindle.
queen of people.
That's why Amazon's so rich, it's all your 99p's.
Well, I've never got any pocket money in my pocket money purse.
Yeah, you should have all the change, the pennies should be coming your way. Anyway, yes, so, but I've looked at lots of other Cleopatra stuff. Like I said, that's why I was reading this. I actually was ill that day, so can't complain. One thing I sort of have and yet haven't finished is Brigadier Gerard. So, The Exploits of Brigadier Gerard by Arthur Conan Doyle was the Rogers pick for Rogers' Cheap Old Book Club in the universe of Michael K. Vaughan, and it's great, really good. So Arthur Conan Doyle, obviously famous for Sherlock Holmes, read all of those many times, but Brigadier Gerard, historical Napoleonic War era fiction, great series of short stories about the character. Yeah, and hugely enjoyed The Exploits of Brigadier Gerard, but that's actually only half of this book, because there's a second collection, The Adventures of Brigadier Gerard. So this remains on the TBR pile, but, you know, looking forward to finding an opportunity to get back into that world. They're humorous, the character is fallible, conceited, and he is genuinely brave and has adventures, but, you know, he's not cowardly or anything, but his own self-regard is very amusing, and the way the adventures play out, mixture of humour and adventure, it's very deftly done. So that was good. So I was lured away from Brigadier Gerard by the Hyborian Age because it was Cimmerian September. It still is Cimmerian September. Also a Michael K. Vaughan devised event, which is lovely. And that was about reading all of Robert E. Howard's Conan stories, which I've done. But I realised I had not done, or had not read, a poem by Howard that is in this book. So that will happen for Poetry Thursday. But will not deprive people of Dr. Jenny's Poetry Thursday reading either, so we're going to do a double act. We call it something like tag poetry, like a tag team, you see, but it's also a tag. In fact, it's several tags, because we will do a Poetry Thursday tag video that is also a Cimmerian September video and a Shaptember video.
Yes.
Next Thursday is the plan, as well as reading this other stuff. Final thing I'm reading is a supernatural creepy book called The Whistling by Rebecca Netley. That's great. That's a group read on Ollie's Patreon, the Criminally channel. It's a sort of slow burn, traditional ghost story, it seems to me. I'm only 25% of the way through. I'm enjoying it, only reading it in daylight, which is always a good sign. And I suppose reading something supernatural, sort of paving the way for Occult Detective October, which will follow on from September, the September of many tags. So Occult Detective October, which I've made a video about as well. A month getting into the occult detective genre through different periods and with different types of writing. And I'm really pleased to be asked by MJ, whose event it is, along with a super team of co-hosts, to be part of this kind of League of Extraordinary co-hosts. So yes, thinking about what to read and what to talk about for that. So good times. Like I say, not really ever. Maybe things are never finished. Maybe there's always some extra little bit to read. But that's my unfinished week of reads. Back soon with something else. Bye.